What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is all about Ajunta Pall, the man who would become the first Dark Lord of the Sith. It is not known for sure when he was born, but he was quickly recognized as a Force-sensitive child. He began to study with the Jedi Order on Ossus, which at that point had already gone through the Great Schism, around 24,500 BBY. He went through the normal course of Jedi training, becoming a knight and then a master, upon which he started to devote his studies to alchemy. Though it is now referred to as Sith alchemy, at this time it was just Force alchemy, and nothing that was thought to be inherently dark side about it. The logic seems to be that just as one could put up a Force shield in combat, or use it to affect your own biology, allowing you to jump higher, run faster, or overcome pain, alchemy was thought to be just a more specific version of these kinds of alterations. That was the idea at least, but as one tried to grow stronger in alchemy, they would discover that they had the ability to create and shape life itself, fundamentally changing species into monstrous perversions, and some theorize that it could even stop people from dying. Many Jedi believe the dark side itself reached out to those skilled in alchemy, corrupting these individuals and making them into pawns of the dark side to carry out its will. This got the study of alchemy banned from the Jedi Order, and they deemed Ajunta Pall, and those who followed his studies of alchemy, to have been corrupted by the promise of power offered by the dark side. Master Pall thought that this was just a mix of arrogance and ignorance, and he and his followers left the Jedi Temple and eventually declared war on his old order. This conflict would last a century, a time in galactic history known as the 100-Year Darkness. Originally, Pall and the other dark side Jedi tried to lie low, and worked on increasing their skills in alchemy. A quote from him reads, "So envious were the Jedi Knights of our ability to transform creatures into improved manifestations. They made it their ongoing duty to hunt us, the Dark Jedi, wherever we attempted to experiment and practice our knowledge." The Dark Jedi lost many of these first battles, but as their skills grew, they were altering many different creatures, the most notable of which was the Leviathan. This alchemy-produced monster gave the Dark Jedi army a boost, but the Jedi Order would still win the war, defeating Ajunta Pall's forces on the planet Korbos. With this defeat, the Dark Jedi were surrounded by the combined forces of the Jedi Order and Republic armies, who stripped the surviving Dark Jedi of their belongings and their weapons. The Republic wanted to have them executed, but the Jedi convinced them that the defeated should be exiled instead. This event would be known as the Second Great Schism, and the Dark Jedi were shipped away in transports to locations far away from Republic space. Arriving in the Outer Rim, one of the planets they discovered was Korriban. This planet had a native species that called themselves the Sith, whose society was less advanced than what the Dark Jedi were used to. But that being said, this Sith species had many Force sensitives, and used the Force in ways that the exiles had never seen. They were led by King Hakagram Grosh, who of course resisted the influence of the Dark Jedi, who he could sense had a superior understanding of both technology and the Force. And sadly for the king, his personal guard, the Shadow Hand, also realized that the exiles could be more powerful leaders, and they handed him over to Ajunta Pall, who personally executed the Sith King. After this, the Sith public viewed the Dark Jedi as gods, with their impressive ships and powers, calling them the Genari, which meant Dark Lord in the Sith language. So by definition, Ajunta Pall was the first Dark Lord of the Sith, meaning a dark side using king of the Sith species. Pall quickly expanded, creating the first Sith Empire by using his army of subjects and Sith alchemy to conquer many other planets. They eventually took over the planet Ziost and made it the capital of the Sith Empire. Ajunta Pall had his personal home on Ziost, but when he died, from what may have been old age, his body was returned to Korriban and placed in this enormous tomb. The successive Dark Lords of the Sith would be buried here as well, in what came to be known as the Valley of the Dark Lords. His spirit would wander the halls of the tomb, a partial way to defeat death through his skills in alchemy. When Revan encountered the spirit of Ajunta Pall, the original Dark Lord expressed regret over his legacy, realizing that the pursuit of power did drive them mad, and that the lords who succeeded him experienced infighting that weakened the Empire, the result of their own greed and bloodlust, not the fault of Jedi persecution. Here is where the accounts differ, with some stating that Revan was able to convince Pall to let go of his legacy and guilt, allowing him to become one with the light side of the Force, while other accounts say that Revan destroyed his spirit before he could find peace. So that's it for the first Dark Lord of the Sith, Ajunta Pall. But you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. Some believe that he was born around 7000 BBY, because this is when the Second Great Schism occurred, which resulted in the 100-Year Darkness. This obviously makes a lot of sense. Because he's a human, it's not like he was born hundreds of years before this, but I didn't include it earlier because there has never been confirmation. But on that same note, it is also likely that he died around 6800 BBY, being able to have a longer than normal lifespan due to his great skills in alchemy. And depending on the player's actions in Knights of the Old Republic, he is either damned or enlightened in the year 3956 BBY. And it's worth mentioning that alchemy was also one of the forbidden studies that caused the First Great Schism, in which a Jedi named Zendor grew tired of the Jedi Order forbidding different kinds of Force traditions and Force abilities. But that's it for Ajunta Pall. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to check out our social media, or ways that you can help support this channel, be sure to check out the description down below. If you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. But more important than all that, remember, sometimes there's rules for a reason, and the Force will be with you, always.